The state election board has been denied. The poll manager and 2 poll officer witnesses at every precinct in every county shall unseal and open each scanner ballot box and remove the paper ballots. So now the Democrats are crashing their cars and stop the hand count. So the state board says you have to do this. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, he says, I can't. It's going to be too hard for me to train everybody to count ballots and put them in stacks of 50. He's saying that if they hand count the ballots, there's going to be an insurrection. Is that what he's talking about? We're back in Fanny land, and the state election board has been denied. We know that they wanted hand counting to happen in the 2024 election of all the ballots that came in, because in 2020, we had some problems with the electoral count that took place in Fulton County under the election officials there. So the state election board wanted hand counts to parallel the machine counts, so that the machine counts would have to be reconciled with the hand counts, because as we know, there are questions about the machines, and more particularly, the implementation of the machines, the maintenance of the machines, the sharing of passwords, the ability to decrypt certain sensitive files and do things however you want. So they said, let's just corroborate these things so we can reconcile these both sides. And now the judge has come out, same judge out of Fulton County, Fanny land, who is now blocking the hand count rule from going into effect. We've talked about him many times here before. Judge Robert C.I. McBurney, Fulton County, issued the following order. He says, all right, in this case, the county board of elections, so remember we've got a big state board of elections that governs the entire state of Georgia, individual county boards. The county boards sued the state board and said, we don't want to implement your hand count rule. In this case, the county is now seeking a judgment saying that the hand count rules are invalid. The rules are set to take effect here any minute now, 7 days after early voting started, so that they can start counting the ballots. And so the county now is filing to interfere with this and to stop the hand counting from happening. The DNC's on this. The Democratic Party of Georgia is joining them. Definitely don't want any hand counts, because then you might have an accurate election. So the judge came out and said, we held an expedited bench trial earlier this week and discussed this. And so here is the decision. Now, the parties have made their way to this, and we have a bunch of materials that were presented, and we've consolidated cases as well. And here's where we pick it up. Now, as mentioned, several people, including the county and the DNC and everybody who's intervening, the other Democrats who are trying to crash their car into this thing, all agree to stop the hand count. Petitioner's motion is supported by a bunch of people saying the same. And here's what is happening. The hand count rule is an amendment of rules and regulations. And the amendment says, among other things, that after the polls close, here's what the rules from the state election board were. The poll manager and 2 poll officer witnesses at every precinct in every county shall unseal and open each scanner ballot box and remove the paper ballots, right? So open the machine, take the ballots out. The ballots are then presented to 3 poll officers to, quote, independently count the total number of ballots removed from the scanner, sorting into stacks of 50 ballots, continuing until all the ballots have been counted separately by each of the 3 poll officers. So you pull out a big stack of ballots, you don't know how many are in there. Oh, it's a big stack. 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. Count them. 50. That's stack it, stack it, stack it. The poll officers each need to reach the same count. So, okay, the machine says we scanned 1,200 ballots. How many do we have? 1,100. Huh? When they're, count again. Oh, wait, we do have 1,200. Okay. When they are so aligned, they signed a control document containing certain identifying information like we're here, scanner number, ballot number, and other items. If the number at which the 3 poll workers all ultimately arrive does not match the figures recorded on the machines, the poll manager must determine the reason for the inconsistency and correct it if possible. Well, we had a stack over here, or something happened, or whatever, and fully document the inconsistency. Why is the machine reporting more votes than we have physical ballots? So they're not counting the votes, right? They're not saying, okay, we've got this many for Trump, this many for Kamala, and so on. They're just total number of ballots. That's all. The decision about when to start this hand count rests with the poll manager. If the scanner ballot box contains more than 750 ballots on election day, the manager is authorized to commence the hand count the next day and finish at any point during the week designated for county certification. If the hand counting does not occur on election day, it must must take place at the county election office. So now the Democrats are crashing their cars and stop the hand count. The act empowers courts to grant relief that they're requesting. So let's see whether they deserve it or not. They say certain things, these are the rules where we can grant an injunction when there's a threat of irreparable injury. If the damage outweighs the harms and other factors. Now here today, the judge says, look, today the status quo, it exists right now, is there is no hand count rule. It doesn't go into effect until October 22nd of this year. Now today is also the first day of early voting and only 3 weeks away from the general election. And should the hand count rule take effect as scheduled, it would do so on the very fortnight of the election, just days before the election. Now, as of today, there are no guidelines or training tools for the implementation of the hand count rule. So you don't have a manual for them to read or instructions, nor will there be any forthcoming. The Secretary of State has cautioned the state election board before it passed the hand count rule that passage would be too close in time for the election for his office to provide any meaningful training or support, right? So the state board says, you have to do this. Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, he says, I can't. It's going to be too hard for me to train everybody to count ballots and put them in stacks of 50. After passage, an unsurprising efflorescence of suits like this one, there's a ton in Georgia, the secretary reaffirmed his ability. Raffensperger, I can't train everybody. This is going to be way too much work. He can't provide last-minute logistical support. And so the court finds that the Democrats have made a sufficient showing of irreparable harm. Our boards of elections are statutorily obligated to ensure that elections are honestly, efficiently, and uniformly conducted, which is hysterical because many of them are not doing that at all. In fact, the election board, the state election board, is trying to do exactly that, to have a fair election. Failure to comply with statutory obligations such as these can result in an investigation by the SEB, suspension, and even criminal prosecution. In other words, saying if there was fraud, then they can investigate it on their own later. Now, they've demonstrated, look at this judge, he's so fun and clever and so funny. Look, the interveners have further demonstrated how the 11th and 1/2 hour implementation, it's funny, he went into superscript up there and really this is going to be fun. I'm going to love this one. 11th and 1/2 hour implementation of the hand count rule will make this coming election inefficient. That's going to be the harm. And non-uniform. And they have an obligation to make sure it's uniform. Never mind what's happening with the ballots and the machines. That involves thousands of workers. And so it's going to be unknown and untested. And we have scanning things. And so there's been no training. There's no protocols for how to handle write-in ballots, which are handled separately from regular ballots under the rules. And there's no allowances that have been made for the budget, even to train any of this. And so we can't train people on how to count stacks of ballots. The administrative chaos that will, and not may, it will ensue, says this judge, because he's already decided. This is the same judge who already certified the elections in Georgia. They're certified. It's done because there's no discretion at all in the certification process. So it's already certified also. So there's going to be no hand count, same judge, and it's already certified. Ensue is entirely inconsistent with the obligations. The remainder of the factors favor granting the injunction. The board has articulated no injury to itself if its hand count rule is delayed, other than we get a rigged election. Clearly, the board believes that the hand count rule is smart election policy, and it may be right, but the timing is just quite wrong. And so from the arguments made in court today, it also appears that they're going to win, saying that this was adopted in violation of the Georgia Procedures Act, Administrative Procedures Act, because there was no public notice before this rule went into effect. And finally, the public interest is not disserved by pressing pause here. This election season is fraught. Memories of J6 have not faded away. This judge. What does J6 have to do with this at all? This is an election case. Memories of January 6 have not faded away. So it should show you how biased this whole thing is, regardless of one's view of that date's fame or infamy. Because he's saying that if they hand count the ballots, there's going to be an insurrection. Is that what he's talking about? Anything that adds uncertainty and disorder to the electoral process disserves the public. So if we hand count the ballots, someone's going to insurrect the Capitol building of Georgia, I guess. On paper, the hand count rule, if properly promulgated, appears to be consistent with the state board's mission of ensuring fair, legal, and orderly elections. It is, at base, simply a check of ballot counts, a human eyeball confirmation that the machine counts match reality. Yeah, that's all. It's super simple. It's not complicated. But it is not that what confronts Georgians today, given the timing of the rule's passage. A rule that introduces a new substantive role on the eve of election for more than 7,500 poll workers who are apparently totally incompetent, who will have not have received any formal, cohesive, or consistent training that allows for our paper ballots, the only tangible proof of whom voted for whom to be handled multiple times by multiple people following an election day night, all before they're securely transported, does not contribute to lessening the tension at all or boosting the confidence for this election. No, your failed machines and your horrible implementation of them that everybody's been suing and fighting over for the last 4 years, doing the same thing you did last time is going to be great. Perhaps for a subsequent election after Raffensperger's office and everybody else has the budget, the training, and the time to prepare for it, this is going to avoid confusion and chaos. And because the hand count rule is too much, too late, and because this Judge McBurney is still freaked out about January 6th, wakes up in cold sweats over it, its enforcement is hereby enjoined while the court considers the merits of the case. So no hand count rule. That has been denied by the same judge, saying the status quo shall remain in effect. Only their failed implementation of their Dominion machines will be used, apparently. Brad Raffensperger is going to be in charge. If you have any problems about it, send your criminal referral to literally Fannie Willis, is what this judge said yesterday in his order when he said that the elections in Georgia are also already certified. And if you have a problem with that, then you can just tell Fannie, and no doubt about it, she'll take care of it. So Cobb County Board wins, the state election board loses, and another election integrity measure in Georgia fails because the Democrats, they just don't want to even question what those machines are spitting out.